excited to change things up a little bit, and we're going to kick pods off from a weekly basis from now on with the Bamboo Banger of the Week. And that'll be our topic. We'll dive in. We'll have a great conversation. And I'm excited. This week, the Bamboo Banger is all about Reddit and their big IPO that they just had. The first one in 5 years, big tech IPO that just happened. And I think it's a really cool platform to kind of relate and explain to people how it works and how to use it for your perception of success and use it as a tool in your daily life. I know you've heard of this platform. What do you think?
I love the idea, and we had a meeting of the minds this morning, and we're talking about how we can bring as much value. So I love that we're just jumping in and making that switch going forward. I'm pumped about it. Why don't you kick us off by giving some of the background of Reddit and the platform, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, this platform is awesome. The meeting of the minds that we had this morning was killer. We needed it. It was a great 2-hour just dive in, you and I, let's connect and figure things out. And it was really exciting. So we will jump into the Bamboo Banger. Reddit IPO'd. It started in 2005. It was co-founded by Steve Huffman. The guy's 2 years older than us. So he's a young guy. And he built this platform to be basically community-based for people to communicate with each other. And these subreddits, if you will, they're kind of like Facebook groups. They're like specialized groups for topics or things where people can talk about various, niche products or whatever. It can be literally anything. And there's 2.8 million subreddits on this platform. But it just went public. And like I said, it was the first time in 5 years since a big tech, social media platform went public. Share price was at $34. It immediately skyrocketed to above 50, 48% growth. It dropped back down to $46. So it's about 41% growth right off the bat. And I couldn't help myself. You remember that movie, that Wall Street Bets movie? What was it? The Big Squeeze? I can't remember what it was called. It might've been on Netflix.
Yeah, the Wall Street Bets was taking everybody by storm via the news when GameStop was skyrocketing.
Yes, GameStop. That's it. Yeah, so that movie goes into it in full detail. But I was full blown watching this thing, heavy into my options trading and all that stuff back in 2021. Luckily, or not so luckily, I don't know which way you look at it, most people lost a lot of money during that time. I was not involved. I did not get into it, but I watched it from afar. And it was pretty crazy. And it started from a subreddit called Wall Street Bets. And it was all of this YOLO culture of how do we buy stock of a really shitty stock like GameStop that was really down in the dumps. And there was these big hedge fund companies that were shorting the stock, meaning they were betting against it for it to grow. And so all of these, these retail traders, casual traders, guys like you and I, just not big companies that are just making stock bets, jumped the price up, skyrocketed. All these hedge funds were losing a ton of money, and they were making a ton. It just was, I don't even remember how much it was, hundreds of percents in growth. And it all started from this subreddit.
We're losing billions.
Yes.
On the shorts.
They were.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that it came from this platform, Reddit. Now, I'm not saying that that's how you become successful in these YOLO stock bets, but that's where it started from. So that was the point of telling that story, is these niche products or niche type of environments are built on Reddit. And Steve Huffman, I think, made $900 million richer after the IPO. So pretty cool story. The platform's been around for 28 years or so. And I think it's just the way they built it out, where you can post anonymously, you can comment. They have this voting system that's built in where if you like posts, it boosts it up to the top. If you dislike posts, it boosts it down. So you can't put, crappy content out there. And it's almost can be used as a review platform and all sorts of things. Whether you're into, a certain TV show like Breaking Bad, you can break it down into different subreddit groups and kind of get others' opinions and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, and I think the IPO was the trigger for the concept. But when we were chatting, it was, what hit me was, I was a late adopter to Reddit. I didn't start using it till probably 4 or 5 years ago, going down the self-help path. And being anonymous, your username is completely anonymous, gives you a sense of safety, along with the community that we talk about, people that are going through the same challenges or have those same interests. So the idea here is to provide tools. You might be under a rock if you haven't used Reddit before, but for our listeners that haven't used it, we want to provide the kind of background to drive you toward the platform and check it out, whether it's for your interest or maybe a problem that you're having. So it was key to me when going through the self-help, because I wasn't singing it from the mountaintops or on a podcast, the stuff I was working on and the problems I was having. But when I found the meditation subreddit, it just opened my eyes on where to begin looking across the internet. And it wasn't driven by advertisements or people pushing their services from a market standpoint, which we're all weary of. It was from people that were in the same boat as I was in and able to have that camaraderie. And wow, they're working on their mind too and trying to improve focus. And it's just been so critical for me, and almost to the point where I use it to double check, because this is that crowdsourcing idea, right? Where we're using our peers to get the information and make our own decisions, and just think it's a super powerful tool. So I thought it would be valuable for the listeners.
Yeah, and they have this like AMA, this Ask Me Anything type of with experts built into subreddits too. So you can, like, if they're tied into these certain, some of them have to be pretty big in order to have this AMA feature or whatever, but it's free to host. Like, you can be a host of a subreddit and just manage it as like a community. It's no cost to jump in on Reddit and ask questions. It's like when you go to Google and you're like, hey, I want to find the best hunting knife I can possibly find. What are my options or whatever? And there's probably a subreddit of hunting tools or knives or whatever, and you'll find all the details of what people are buying and using. And go into the health and fitness, it's like same thing. There's a subreddit for like health and wellness people that you can directly interact with.
That's the other cool thing, is that you're able to help other people. I know I got a kick out of, I don't know if we talked about it on the pod, should have talked about it on the Minimalist podcast, but I have a Scotty Cameron, which is a very specific brand of putter under Titleist. Oh, yeah. I have quite a few of them.
You have like 1,000 of them. How many do you actually have? I think you have over 20.
I think it's like 17 as of now, and that's just the Scotty Camerons. But I am on the Scotty Cameron subreddit, and a lot of individuals will post photos of Scotty Camerons because they're so valuable. There's a fake market, right? And people will post the photos of their putter and say, is this real or not? Can you help? And I remember jumping on there and just going on a fury for this one guy that posted, or I don't know if it was a guy or not, a person that posted and was like, no, that is a fake. Don't buy it. Or if you've already bought it, try to find the seller because it's a fake. And it was like, oh, you have this feeling of, helping this person, or maybe not in that case. Maybe he was already had the buyer's commitment, but that's just one example. You're able to share the knowledge that you have and put it out into these rooms that are subreddits that are moderated. That's the beautiful part.
Yeah.
Having someone that has an eye out for the community, for the spreading of false information, which I know is something that is very top of mind for the world today. And we're going to get into that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just love the anonymous or anonymity, or however you say that.
Anonymity. We were struggling with hard this morning.
That is such a hard word. I can't say that one very well. But yeah, I mean, that's the best part, is like, I wouldn't say I'm on there every day. It's not one of the top platforms that I use, but if I'm looking for something, if I'm looking for answers from somebody, and it could be anything, like, it could be personal stuff, like you said, that you just don't really want your name out there about, but you need to do some research instead of going to Google for articles or whatever and do your own research. I have joined some Facebook groups. I think we've talked about it on this pod before. When I had Valley Fever, I was in like a Valley Fever specific group which was a private group, and only people in there interacted could see what I was talking about, because I was trying to learn about this. But I also went to Reddit, and there's things about that in there too. So like, you can use this without your name at all. You just have like a screen name. I screen name because we're old, and it's like us being an AOL, an AOL Instant Messenger. Your handle, I guess now, is what we say, right?
That is a funny part about it too. I didn't prep for this, but it was interesting to me because they auto create one for you. And if you don't switch it out the gate, you have that forever. You can't really change it. So, and I'm not going to share what mine is, but it's pretty funny.
What is it? You got to share it now. No, because you want to stay anonymous.
Because it's anonymous. And with the biohacking that we talk about on here and all the experimenting that I'm doing, it's so valuable for those specific areas because they're kind of relatively unknown, and you want to be safe and hear perspectives, and it's a good mental exercise because you're like, okay, this person said that, this person said this, and you've got to make your own call. I will say, just like every other platform these days, it's also very entertaining, and I get more caught going down a black hole.
It's hilarious.
Distraction on the arguments that start going on via the internet. I think Reddit was the first to really have these heated exchanges, and some of them are so well written from highly intelligent people that they are just roasting each other. And so there is that, which everyone is used to in this modern day, which whatever social platform of your choice is, but pretty funny.
Well, yeah, and you have you feel safe in that environment because you're all in the same subreddit, you're all in the same kind of group, you're talking about the same. It's not like just throwing out a Twitter and someone coming at you out of nowhere. They have to find your comment essentially, and you have these interactions. But yeah, it's hilarious. It gets really funny. And speaking of these handles that you are given, I don't know if this guy created it or if he was given it. I'm sure he created it, but the Wall Street Bets guy that did the pump and dump with GameStop, it's Roaring Kitty was his name. And it just reminded me that, remember in our meeting yesterday, and we had Chrissy May educate us on some things, and she was talking about the roaring exercise, and this guy's name was Roaring Kitty, and I just thought that was kind of a fun thing.
I think I would imagine that this is a really great area, and this was out when we were in college. Just I didn't know about it to use it, but when you're navigating life for the first time, we talk about college being that bridge to adulthood. I think that's the most valuable part of college, in my opinion, which will probably be a whole nother episode on higher education. But you're figuring out how to be an adult with most people still having a safety blanket of their parents for the most part. And to have a resource like that and talk with your peers, or even better, people that got through college and are just 3, 4, 5 years ahead of you, as you're figuring out this adulting as well as your curriculum and college coursework, huge resource to be able to, it's a shortcut. Quite honestly, Google gets you to a certain point, but you got to fight the AdWords and advertisements and do your search. But I think I just think it's a huge resource.
Well, it goes back to building your community, right? And finding your tribe, and who are the people in your circle, whether they're people you can shake their hand with or people you can find a community online, having those conversations. I mean, you get so much inspiration and motivation and real world experiences and stories and tools and things from others. And you need to be able to find those people, and Reddit's a great resource for that. I think there's just a lot of, social media in general is going to have a lot of trash and a lot of things depending on who you're following. I know that when you start following the people that like the people that where you want to go and they've already been there, if you can find those people, your entire feed just gets filled with that eventually. Like the algorithm will work where your entire feed, if you're like, I want to be positive, I want to be positive, I want to be positive, I'm going to focus on following people who talk about positivity or inspiration or ways for me to work hard. And I just start following them and I interact with them. And all of a sudden your feed just gets filled with it. And you can do that with Reddit and finding those subreddits. And that's all you focus on, is just diving into those subreddits and having that conversation with those people. And that's what's cool about the two-way back and forth of commenting and having that full-on conversation.
Agreed. And on the same tone as the putters, I am on the sales subreddit and will literally chime in a lot. Honestly, I get a little addicted to it. And just like any other social media platform, will be like, where can I drop some knowledge to who you can tell is a very green and new salesperson, and give them some quick life advice, because it feels good. Like, just feels good to help other people.
Yeah.
And just one of the other subreddits that have been a big interest. I think that I don't know this for certain, but I'm pretty sure the meme started in Reddit, or at least it's where it really blew up with sharing of memes. I'm pretty certain that's where it was. If not, it became by far the largest social media platform for using memes. The other thing with Reddit is, and it's going to be interesting now that they're going to be a publicly traded company, because they have to monetize. They haven't been profitable ever. So the culture of the platform is anonymity and not being sold to or marketed to all the time. So there's going to be kind of a punk rock. It's kind of the punk rock platform. And it's like, oh, are we selling out? That's going to be the next chasm they have to cross as they start to monetize with ads.
Yeah.
Not that it'll be going away. I think they're too sticky now. They're a lifestyle for many people. It'll be interesting to see how they navigate that with such a culture change.
Yeah, I just looked up. So I was trying to find your meme question on Reddit, and the subreddit of Out of the Loop came up. And I guess it means like if you don't know a certain thing, you're out of the loop, right? Like things have already been going on and you didn't know it was coming. There's no real answer how the meme started. So I don't know if it was from Reddit, but it's, like back in like 2017, like, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, it was kind of weird to say the word meme. Like, how do you say it? Meme, meme, what is it? And so it's like, it was not a thing. And now, obviously it is. I don't know if it started on Reddit, but it definitely was something that went all over the place and went wild on Reddit. People were sharing those all the time.
Yeah, I think another thing that's cool about it is the fact that there's actually etiquette. Like we've talked about it a little bit so far, but that there are actually rules of engagement specific to that thread. And a lot of them are universal, and when you break it, I know that there are laws for etiquette on Instagram and the other ones, and then they just block you, which can happen on Reddit too. You get kicked out of groups. But just the fact that there are kind of some rules of engagement on the platform just gives a little bit of class.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, there's like a whole moderation, like I said, there's moderators for each of the subreddits, and they kind of manage that, and user profiles showcase activity on the platform. Like you can see where people, almost kind of like LinkedIn in a way. I think so. LinkedIn kind of started doing, have you noticed where they started, I don't know, in the past 6 months or 12 months, maybe, I don't know how long ago. I think it was pretty recent, where they're asking for people to like answer questions. Like you get, hey, you seem like an expert in this field, answer this type of question. And then people will see those responses, kind of look at that. It kind of goes back to you of like saying how it feels good to be able to answer questions for people that are, when you go on there and you can jump in. And I think LinkedIn does a pretty good job at that, but Reddit does a better job because it is more of that community based, where I'm answering questions for these people and I'm having a two-way conversation. I think you can kind of comment back and forth on LinkedIn, but I don't know. I just really am a fan of Reddit, and it seems it's so unknown. Like not a lot of people use it. And I think it's more just for information and community involvement. And it's not so much just like, hey, look at me, pictures and videos, and it's anonymous. And I don't know. I think it's a cool tool. And it's something that I think a lot of people should use as they're trying to figure out, what it is that they're trying to do, what questions they have.
And I think it's important as we talk about this as a tool, like everything, there are two sides of the coin, and these are tools, just like a knife or a gun can be used for good, positive purposes, and for bad. And they've had their fair share of the other side of the coin that everyone is super concerned about these days with OpenAI, with the spreading of fake information. And I think this is the driver home, and might be the one of the bamboo bangers, is successful people almost across the board. What they're able to do is to take a data set, collect information, reason with it, truly analyze it, and make a decision for themselves. And being able to do that, have the space, have the independence and the confidence in your own decision making to take all that information and make a good decision. And we do this in our subconscious for big life instances that are trying to keep us alive, like crossing the street or, reactionary things. But bringing in that this still requires you to do the work of synthesizing information and making a decision for yourself based on your values and what you're trying to achieve.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you nailed it. You're going to have your own personal core values. You're going to have your own purpose and your vision of where it is you want to go, your goals and all this stuff. And you're going to get information fed to you. And it's up to you to decide if that aligns. And if it doesn't, then you don't take it as truth. And you've got to figure out if it does align, if it really is, doing some extra research to make sure it's truth, So depending on how much you're trying to gain knowledge and how much you're, diving into how important this is to you, don't use it as your only source of information. You have other sources that you can figure out, but it's a great way to kind of tap into, scratching the surface and getting into the nitty gritty of, do I need to dive down this path further? And are these questions legit? But yeah, no, I think it's a great product, great tool. And that's what this is all about.
Is that the pod?
I think so.
We might have been late to the game on Reddit. Maybe we're telling the audience what they already know, but if not, at least you know about their IPO and where they're at today. And we'll be back at you next week.